Hello friends, today's session is on Safal. So many of you must have heard about this word Safal, which you've been using for the past 1 or 2 years. It was mostly introduced in the schools as a pilot project. It was not mandatory. So it was a pilot project. They selected a few schools and the Safal was conducted. And last year also the number of schools were increased. Many of them volunteered for the Safal program and many of them did not. But this year, the Cbse has made a protocol that every Cbse school has to undergo the Safal. So it is important for us to understand what Safal is all about. So in the year 2024, that is the present year, we are going to have Safal in all the schools that is as per the Cbse syllabus. What does Safal stand for? Many of you are already aware of this, that Safal is structured assessment for analyzing learning. So Safal is in Hindi, Safalta is like success. So they have, taken that and made this into Safal program. So structured assessment for analyzing learning. It also becomes a tool for assessment where the schools and the zones, the states and the country as a whole is able to understand whether the children taught in different schools in different regions are having the minimum learning outcomes or not. So NEP is talking about so many factors, NCF is talking about many factors, but when it comes to the assessment, is it happening or not? That assessment is suffer. So today's session, we are going to start with the basics of NEP and then gradually take only the assessment part, of course. One of the key features of NEP was the assessment part. That means it is not only important for the educators to teach, but also assess that whether our students are able to understand that or not. So we need to track the progress of our students. And the NEP has said that it should be implemented in class 3, 5, and 8. It should be implemented in 3 classes, 3, 5, and 8. So this test is for 3 classes. However, in the latest Cbse circular, which I saw, they have mentioned only class 5 and 8, not class 3. So we'll come to that part later. But as per the NEP 358, which means then in the coming years, you can expect for 3 as well. Okay, so what is the exam all about? The exam is about assessing competencies and higher order thinking. It's not direct questions. There may be a few direct questions, but more of competency based questions where the child has to think. It is not, direct question, what is 2 plus 2? So there has to be a minimum learning outcome when the child is in class 3. So the level is going to be very basic. It's not going to be, IIT level questions and Olympiad level questions. No. So they need not have any extra classes. You need not, give them reference notes or resource material. That will also that will help the students definitely. But what the government wants from us is that in your normal teaching, how much is the student being able to absorb? Is the student in class 3 attaining a minimum level? Is it in class 5, are they attaining a minimum level? And class 8, are they attaining a minimum level? So that is what this is all about. So it's basically a tool for development and monitoring. So if you notice, the whole exam pattern of Safal is based on 3 fundamental principles. One is critical thinking. You have to look at the question and not directly vomit out the answer and forget. Not rote learning or memorization, but it is critical thinking. Then problem solving. When you talk about problem solving, it's again, I will be giving you some example of how problem solving is there. Like it could be in the higher classes, like we have case studies and assertion reasoning. For the lower classes, there will be similar problem solving cases, not direct, but where the child has to think and find out the answer. And of course, the analytical skills are going to be checked because these 3 critical skills, problem solving and analytical skills, the board of educators who have prepared this document, they realize that these 3 are very important for higher education as well as for life in general, because no use, learning about XYZ and then you don't know how to apply in your real life. So it's important that whatever skills that we are developing in schools need to be realistic and the child has to apply that in real life. Otherwise, all the study becomes meaningless, isn't it? So therefore, this test has been developed for that. Now we come to the a question, for example. Now, if you might be wondering, what is this competency based? What is this problem solving? So here on the left side, you have a direct question. So it's a very basic question of probably class 1, class 2 level. Solve 10 minus 3. Okay, so that is a normal question. 10 minus 3, the child will subtract and write the answer as 7. Now, what Safal says is that don't give 10 minus 3, because here you have to, there is no thinking skills involved. There is no life skill involved. So the same question, if I rephrase that Anya has 10 rupees, she is spending 1 rupee on a candy and gives 2 rupees to her friend, how many rupees does Anya have left? Here the child is able to think that, like, okay, I have got 10, I am spending 1 rupee on the candy and I'm giving 2 to my friend. So total money that I'm spending is 3. Then what is the money that I have left is 10 minus 3, 7. So you see the difference in the wordings of the question. One is a direct question and one is a competency based question. So this is what Safal is all about, making the question more relevant to actual life. Okay, so I hope that you've understood what is the difference between a direct question and a question based on analyzing the situation and problem solving and then getting the answer. So these type of questions you can develop and train your kids. Now, as I said, it is the original NAP was at 3 particular stages, 3, 5, and 8. But in the present document that the Cbse has released, it is only class 5 and 8. So identify what is the short-term objective of Safal. So Safal has got short-term and long-term objectives. So immediate objective of Safal is to identify what are the areas in which we can improve. The schools will come to know, okay, these are the areas in which the school has to improve. It could be communication, it could be mathematics, it could be other forms of learning. So what is lacking immediately we'll come to know, and we can compare our result with other school results, our neighborhood schools, our region, our zone, and the state as a whole. So where do we stand? So that comparison is going to help us in making ourselves better. So short-term objective of Safal is to improve on the specific areas. And obviously, when we conduct the test, we'll come to know what are our shortcomings. So if I compare 3 or 10 schools in my locality, I will be able to, okay, this school has scored this much in this parameter. This school has scored this much. So what are they doing right? Probably you could interact with the teachers of that school and get some ideas. So, the NEP also talks about the cluster system where the schools have to cooperate and, they share resources. Very few clusters are actually getting actively involved in these type of things where sharing of resources is taking place. Again, Safal says that you compare yourself with other schools of your neighborhood, collaborate with them, find out what is going well in those schools so that you can incorporate the best practices that they are doing and you will also improve. Similarly, you have some parameter which other schools may want to incorporate in their style of teaching. So you will want to share those. So this is how the whole Safal program is going to take place. Now, in the report card, normally we have grades, whether you are pass and fail and all that, but Safal is not interested in whether you are getting 90 or 80 or 70 or what grade you are getting. It's not concerned about the individual performance. It is concerned that how the students of a school as a whole is taking part in the test and how they are performing. So individual pass fail, the Safal is not a report card where the child is getting promoted to the next class. No, because some people I heard saying that it's equivalent to board exams, like in 10th and 12th we have board exam in class 3, 5, 8. Now board exams will be there, that they are naming it as Safal. No, that is totally wrong. This is only a analysis for the government to collect data on what is the learning levels happening in our schools. It is in no way a exam where you can promote the child or detain the child on the basis of Safal. So even if the child is getting very poor marks or high marks, it has nothing to do with the result of being retained or promoted or any other achievement records. It is just an analysis tool. So everybody has to understand that it is only used for analysis purpose. Now, when we talk about long-term objectives, those are the short-term objectives. When we talk about the long-term objectives, it is development of skills as a whole. So when you know your shortcomings, obviously you're going to build upon the areas in which you are weak. You're going to incorporate ideas from other schools. You're going to have meetings or resource person conducting sessions for you and telling you what exactly is going wrong and how it can be improved. You can meet other stakeholders of your school and discuss that what can be done in a better way. So the long-term objective is that every child of the country should attain the minimum learning outcomes. We should have 100% result. Right now, if you see in the boards, there may be 90, 95% result. That means 5% are failing. Now, when you talk about 5%, you may think it's a small number, but when 1 crore students are giving an exam, 5% of that will be 5 lakh students. That means 5 lakh students are not clearing the class 10 exam. And that's a huge number. What will those students do? Because unless you pass class 10, you cannot do 12th, you cannot go to college, and ultimately you will not get jobs and you will remain unemployed, or you have to work in an unorganized sector and there is no future scope of studying for that child. So the long-term goal is to impart life skills, or have a child should develop critical thinking, and the child should be able to analyze situations and get the solutions to the questions. And now when we talk about the key features of this assessment, this was formulated in 2020, but it was not compulsory at that time. So they said that we want to promote critical thinking, we want to have inquiry-based learning, we want to have analysis-based learning. And when they said that Safal initially in 2021, when they launched it, they said it's going to be a pilot project. So they selected a few schools, some principals volunteered that they want to undergo this test, and they did it in 22 and 23. But in 24, now the government says that everybody had to register. Of course, a few schools have not registered still, and you will have to make arrangements for registration at the earliest, because it has become mandatory now onwards. So if you're not taking part in the nationwide exercise of giving this assessment, then you are missing out something big, right? So we are going to test the core concepts, number one, and we are moving away from the rote learning methodology, which was happening for so many years, and our kids were, just memorizing something, giving the exam, and coming home forgetting everything after the exam. So it is going to be applicable in all government and public schools. It's not that it's happening only in government or only in private. Anybody, all students are going to give this, and the school level data will be shared. The data of our students will be available to us, and we will be able to compare the learning outcomes of children in different classes and different subjects, the area of weakness, so that each school can make improvement based on the weak areas that has been assessed. And this data is going to be used for continuous hand holding. As I said, sharing of resources among cluster schools, invitation of specialized resource persons, involving other stakeholders of the school. You can try out various multiple factors in making your results better the following year, because this is not a 1-year exercise. It's going to happen every year. So if you are having a weakness, there is no problem. Who doesn't have weakness? But then if the same weakness continues to remain there next year also, then that means the school has not done anything about it. So it's important that we go to the next step. And what is that? The purpose. So we need to motivate our education. Our education system sometimes has become stagnant over a period of time. It was going on and on. And today we are looking at rapid changes, especially after NEP 2020. The changes have been rapid. Every year we get to hear something new about the protocols of the Cbse, about the two-board system, about 3-language formula, about the national credit systems. So this is what is going to happen in the education. If you're not up to date about what's going on, then we lose out as educators. So what is important that we are moving towards that competency-based learning, where we are going to measure the school performance based on the key competencies. So they have this data, they are going to collate this data, and with the help of various statistical methods, they are going to compare the performance of the schools in the neighborhood, in the zones, in the states, and so on. And then, as I told you, identify areas and then intervene based on the areas of weakness. Then we come to the purpose of Safal in the school. So what will happen when you get the Safal report? What schools can do? First is identify learning gaps. So you all know, okay, this is the gap. So identification, when you go to a doctor, the first thing is the symptoms you are going to tell. Then diagnosis is the most important part. So you can say that the most important point here for an educator is know where is the learning gap, what went wrong. I tried my best in the class. I am screaming away to glory. I am taking extra class. I am taking remedial class. I am interacting with the parents. I am giving assignments. I have got video on my channel. In spite of my best efforts, why are my students not doing well? So here comes the learning gap. So students are struggling in some areas. And this Safal exam helps us to understand which are the areas in which the student is having these learning difficulty or deficiency. And then what are we going to do? We are going to modify or change our teaching methodology. So if you continue to do the same thing, then what will happen? You will get the same results. So we need adjustments. So how are we going to adjust that? Probably we need more tools. We need probably a smart board. We need to reach out to students in different ways, playway method, storytelling method, experiential learning. There are so many methods available now, catering to multiple intelligence of the students, right? And for this, it's important that the teachers also undergo training. If the teachers themselves are not interested in training, how will they train the students? So it is important that the teacher is a good learner. Teacher is the best learner. And when the students find that the teacher has got sufficient knowledge, is a resource full of knowledge, normally what happens is that the students respect that teacher, and the classes are able to run smoothly. So this is what is happening in most institutions, is that professional development takes a backseat. And that is why if we encourage all our educators to attend more and more sessions and get empowered more, right? So once you are professionally qualified and you know what is the curriculum, you have identified the learning capacity, and then what are you going to do? You are going to divert your resources to areas which needs attention most. So if you think that there is a learning deficiency in children to maths, then math should be your focus area. If you feel that communication skills, children are not able to speak in English or any language for that matter, that means communication is a problem, and therefore more and more activity should be done to build on communication. And as I said, involve more stakeholders. It is not only the teachers or the management, involve past pupils, the alumni of your school, involve the neighborhood people, and the people who are well-wishers, the parents of the students. All these people can be invited, or you can contact a professional organization to train your teachers. So this is all stakeholder engagement. So when the stakeholders are involved, obviously the result is going to improve, because you are having multiple ways of teaching the students, not one way. Okay. Then long-term planning, of course, every school has a vision, mission, and the teachers have to slowly, gradually approach that. And a school can call itself successful when the mission is respected totally and implemented also properly. So focus of always is students. A student-centric school will always be successful. Earlier times it was teacher-centric. Now slowly, the education system is becoming student-centric. So if the student is given priority over anything else, and the student is the focus area of the whole education system, that school gradually will become a better, happy place for everyone. Now, what is the role of teachers? We as educators, we as principals, what will be our role in this whole system? First of all, is that you will need to be familiar with the Safal system so that you can explain to others. If a kid is asking you what is this exam and you yourself, I don't know, you go and read in Google, then that itself sets a negative impression. Okay. So you need to familiarize yourself with what is Safal and what are the key features of Safal. That's number one. Number two, as I said, you can make use of this areas of improvement for your personal teaching. So you know that your students are lacking in this, so I need to focus more. So you exactly know where the problem is. So strike at that point to get it better. And you're going to use this third point to use it as constructive engagement with the parents. So sometimes we are not able to diagnose what is the issue. I don't know what happened. He was doing so well, but suddenly what happened, we don't know. This is a general comment which we hear during the parent-teacher meetings. So this is the problem, because once the diagnosis is done, then we have to engage ourselves with parents. Don't say that I will do everything, you relax. No, because it's a combined effort of the student, of the parent, and the teachers. Then only the results are going to improve, and then only the learning deficiencies are going to be removed. So we are going to test the core concepts in the Safal examination. The assessment will be applicable to all, and this data will be used for continuous monitoring. So it's not that the exam is over and the whole process was, for the sake of a government protocol, mandatory protocol, the schools have followed it. But what we are going to do with the data that we are going to get over the next few months is of prime importance and significance, because If we want to improve our Safal score next year, then whatever learning deficiencies were observed this year has to be rectified in the coming months. So how can parents use this? So we've talked about teachers, the role of teachers, principal, and other stakeholders. Parents can also be supportive in many ways. First of all, understand strength and weakness. Every child has got their strength and weakness. So they know the children best, because the children, initial stages, parents are the first teachers. So they know the child is good in communication or good in drawing or painting or singing. They're able to identify. So a child's proficiency areas and where they need support, the parent is knowing when the child is 1 year, 2 year, 3 year. So try to give support if the child needs it. Don't wait that, okay, he will become 20 years old and then he will be okay. No. Sometimes the support system will start even at the age of 1 and 2. It's important. Collaborate with teachers. Kindly do not engage in dialogues or arguments with teachers. We are there to help children. And therefore, it is our moral duty as parents to collaborate with teachers so that our students are doing well. Okay. So obviously, the teachers are taking so much effort in managing a class of 40, 45 students. They may not be able to give individual attention to a child. Okay. So we have to respect that part. And when we have a child at home, we need to be very careful in understanding our wards' perspectives, right? And engage in discussion with them, what happened in class, and devise ways uh, as per your child's needs. A lot of parental support is required for the child's excellence in academics. Teachers play a big role, but parents play an even greater role at home. So unless both these are not joined together like a jigsaw puzzle, the success will be incomplete, right? So home support is very, very important. Now, once we identify the problems, the challenges that the kids are having, then we set realistic goals. What should be the realistic goal? We have an expectation from our child, and we have to set realistic goals for our children. Not that, you become doctor, you become engineer, and so on, without assessing the aptitude of the child or the interest of the child. Child may be interested in music or photography or whatever. You as parents will force him or her to become something. It will not or may not work, or they may be disappointed over a period of time after working in that field which you have chosen. So it is important that the correct testing methods are used to identify what is their strength, what is their weakness, and in what fields can they excel depending on their aptitude and interest. So realistic goals with achievable targets is a good way of encouraging your child. Okay, so child is, let's say, getting 33, and next you are seeing a result of 60. Don't tell the child that why didn't you score 90. Encourage the child and say that, okay, from 30 you became 60. I'm proud of you. Next time aim for 70. So a realistic goal has to be set. Then the child will feel that it is achievable. So anything which is achievable, the child will try. If you are saying that, okay, I don't want below 95, child may not even try. Okay. So it's important to assess our children in a very realistic way so that the results are concrete. Now, if you see what happens in different countries, so here we have got the data of different countries. In Mexico, you see they have an exam called NLACE. And this happens in 3, 4, 5, 6, and 9. In Chile also, they are having an exam, SIMC, SIMC. It is called in 4, 8, and 10. And once this exam happened in Chile, their PISA ranking started increasing, whereas ours was down. So this is what is happening. Whereas in Australia, you see it is 3, 5, 7, and 9. And reports performance on the competencies and proficiency level. So different countries are having different methodologies of assessments, right? In the UK, you are having in 2, 6, 9, and 12, and they are emphasizing on language and mathematics in 2 and 6. So it's not that only India is doing, different countries have different forms of assessment. And it is high time that we have an assessment, because you know that our PISA rankings and all our Olympiad rankings are going now to a very dismal stage. our students are not able to compete at the international level as they used to do many years back. So many years back, in the US, there was parents used to say, study hard, otherwise the Indians will take your job, because they were so good with languages and mathematics. And now what is happening is that now children are not taking sufficient interest. Teachers are not probably putting effort. There are multiple factors. The resources that children are having is not proper. Guidance received is not adequate. So multiple reasons are kids, for whatever reason, social media, of addiction to mobile phones, all this has taken a toll on our kids. And therefore the attention span in our classes has decreased to a very dismal level. So this is the state of affairs in India, and I am really hoping that all these changes that we are seeing here are going to change our system of education for the better, right? So once the report is there, how do you read the report? So if you look at the stages, so that is divided into bands. So you get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, like that. Okay. So if you are in, let's say, band 4, that's your school average, whereas your national average is band 3. So different bands will be there. So your school average will be located at a particular. So it depends on how your students are performing. Is it above the national average or below the national average? If it is below national average, it's time to buck up. You need to increase your level. So you need to go to the higher levels. Okay. So it is important that we go from one level to other. Are they exceptionally good? Then you go to band 6, right? You as a school will be placed in band 6. You are having a lot of critical analysis students who can able to do questions uh, which can be solved only by critical thinking, or it involves higher order thinking skills. Then that means you are doing very well. You are already doing very well. You are in band 6. And if your students are, not able to communicate properly, not able to write creatively, not able to solve mathematics properly, and it is only very basic, then you may come somewhere in band 3, band 4, very basic stuff, minimum learning outcomes, somewhere at the center. And if you think that it is nothing at all, the children are in your school are not able to read, not able to write, even when they are in class 3 stage, they're not able to read and write, they're not able to calculate simple questions. That means you may be in band 1 or band 2, and therefore you need to work really hard in the coming months to upgrade to the next higher level, right? So there will be a national average and there will be a result of your school as well. So this was the circular that we received, and many of you must have already gone through this. It says that the Cbse has launched this in July 2021. That was the year the Safal program was started. However, as I told you, it was only a pilot project and non-mandatory. So many of the schools were not taking part in this. And again, they are saying it is not a qualifying test. It is a diagnostic test. It is only a diagnostic test and it cannot be used for promotions. So the primary focus of Safal is to diagnose the areas where our students are lacking and where the student should focus. Okay. So it is a competency-based assessment. No extra class or specific preparation is needed. Only our regular classroom teaching is enough for students to give this exam. They very clearly specified that. Now, what our school is going to get is the school level competency report. Okay. They will be able to see your own school. You cannot see your neighboring school report, right? And you will be able to see your report. You will be able to see where you perform well, where you are lacking. That will be there, and it will not be made public. It's a private thing. Only your school principal and the authorized personnel will be able to see that result. It will not be on any website or printed anywhere. So it's going to be a personal document and a personal feedback for you from Cbse, and it is a tool of assessment of the teaching learning practice at school and should be taken in this spirit only. So they have very clearly said that this is a diagnostic tool and a tool of assessment. It should not be taken in any other format. And it is the duty of the principal, the coordinators, and whoever is in charge of training the teachers that or conducting the exams, or the invigilators, that this exam is conducted with utmost sincerity. They are using this because you heard about the scams that happened recently, and there is leakages of exam paper, and some schools may try to sorry to say, but give out the answers and, try to improve the scores secretly. But this is not expected from educators, not expected from schools, and therefore it has to be made totally fair, and it should be sincere testing where the invigilators are strict and no form of cheating is happening in any form. Okay, so it is important that this exam is conducted like this. And obviously, this is going to be an exam which is conducted online for every school on the same days. So the dates where you need to edit your student data, suppose you are sending your students for the Safal exam, all the data has to be entered, your student's name and the class and so on. And the students who are presently in class 9, they will be giving this exam for the class 8. Okay, because this is exam is for 3, 5 and 8. So obviously they will be in the next class. So if you're giving an class 8 exam, obviously the present class 8 students have just completed 1 or 2 months in class 8. They will not know class 8 syllabus. So it is the 9 students who are giving this class 8 exam of the Safal. Your present 9 students are giving this exam based on class 8 Safal, and your present 6 will give the 5 and present 4 will be giving 3. And this exam is going to happen from 22nd July to 12th August. And as per Cbse records, 11,974 schools will participate. That means many schools are not participating because we have close to 1 lakh schools in India, and out of that 11,974, that means probably just a fraction of that is actually appearing for the exam. And they have given dates that which subject is going to happen on which day. So science is going to happen on 22nd and 23rd of July. That is this month. And 24th and 25th, we are having maths, and languages we'll have on 26th July. So this is for grade 8, right? Similarly, we have a schedule for other classes. So here we have the schedule for grade 5, EVS happening on 30th July to 31st July. Maths is on 1st August and 2nd August, and the languages 5th August and 6th August. And they have kept some buffer days, 7th to 12th, that by chance something happens and you're not able to conduct an exam, or there are some issues, you have to inform Cbse and get it done in these buffer days. And obviously, after the buffer days complete, then there will be no exam conducted for anyone, and the exam will come to a close. And it is important that all the schools are going to review the data, that whether you've entered the correct data of the students. As I said, the present, some schools are getting confused whether the present 5th have to give or the present 6th. It is the present 6th and the present 9th who will give this exam. So this is actually the Safal exam in 2024, but it is relevant for last year's class 5 and 8. So this is what I was telling in the Cbse document. They have not mentioned 3, although NEP says 3. They have mentioned only 5 and 8. So we have to do only for 5 and 8. And all these computers that are in your school need to be connected to a single LAN, and the batch size, etc. will your obviously somebody who is handling your technical part will be knowing better. Normally, there is somebody assigned in every school to do this. So they'll have to read a little more about the technical part. And if it is a Hindi medium school, then you will select Hindi. Otherwise, it is going to be English, right? And after that, you have to review and correct any details in those editing period only. And once the editing period is complete, you will not be able to edit anything, and the exams will start on the stipulated dates. So I hope the exam pattern and what Safal is and what is the purpose of Safal, I was able to explain to you in this short session. Thank you so much, and keep joining for more updates. Thank you and have a nice day.